Warning. This is not a safe space. Leave your bullshit and feelings at the door.
Hey, Terry, did you hear that millennial men are reinventing masculinity?
Reinventing it for who? Not for me. I know that for a fact.
I guess so.
It's time for the most raw and unfiltered experience on the internet. So kick your feet up and grab a cold one. You have just entered the Man Cave. And now, here they are, winners of the self-proclaimed International Greatest Men Alive Award, Brad and Terry.
Thanks for joining us here in the Man Cave. I am Brad.
And I'm Terry.
Hey, make sure to check us out online over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and listen to us on Google Play, SoundCloud, and on YouTube. But if you want the full no bullshit experience and the ability to win prizes, you're going to have to subscribe to us over on Patreon, and we'll talk about that a little more here a little bit later.
Hey, so I've already had one of these beers, but why don't you tell the people what we're drinking, because it's really good.
All right, man. Hey, today we're drinking the Dead Guy Ale. It is brewed and canned by Rogue Ales out of Newport, Oregon. And yeah, I've had one too, and I'm about to crack open the second one. And yeah, they're delicious. It's probably, though, the most expensive six-pack that I've ever bought in my life.
Yeah, you paid almost $15 for a six-pack.
12 for a six, but I mean that's $2 a beer at a regular grocery store.
Yeah,
it was insane. But I, like you said earlier, you get what you pay for. It's to me very good beer.
Oh yeah. So walk me through what you were saying about millennials trying to reinvent masculinity.
Yeah, so pulled up an article I was reading the other day, and it's on Forbes. I can post it to the Facebook page here in a little bit once we get done with this, but it is literally laid out. It's called 7 Reasons Why Millennial Men Are Reinventing Masculinity.
Okay.
I mean, needless to say, I don't really agree with it on many premises, right? So first off, the article, I almost missed it when I started reading this, and I had to know who wrote this, because I like looking up who wrote this and kind of studying their background, like where are they coming from.
Yeah.
It's by Jules Schroeder.
Yep, Jules Schroeder.
Jules. So immediately I'm like, wait a second. An article about masculinity is written by a woman. Like, I'm not knocking women in general, but like, how is she the authority on the idea of what is or isn't considered masculinity, and how the reinventing of it is somehow better than what it previously was?
Does she state that she believes it's better the way that they are reinventing it, or is this just an article defining what she believes millennials are reinventing masculinity into?
She pretty much writes of how the new millennial masculinity is going to be, like how they feel it's going to be.
Okay. And
I couldn't 100% disagree with pretty much everything she says.
All right, let's.
But second, like, my issue with her is when I go to her website, it describes her as she is a musician, and this is a quote straight from her website, is a musician and a visionary on a mission to inspire people to create a life by their own design.
Okay.
How hypocritical can you be? Life by their own design. I get to design my life, but yet you write this article defining what masculinity either is or isn't going to be.
True.
So I don't think she's ever talked to a man who feels himself to actually be masculine, like we would consider ourselves two masculine men.
Right.
I don't think she's ever stepped outside of her comfort zone and talked to someone like us, right? I think people who are writing articles like this, right, they're sitting there in their man-bunned, latte-sipping, paleo-eating, gluten-free freaking echo chamber theorizing what a masculine man is without ever getting out and actually conversing with one to get what their perspective is.
Well, they see a masculine man as someone that is gross and toxic, and why would they waste their breath talking to them?
Yeah. But, I mean, I think they're actually afraid to get to know someone like us and find out that while we consider ourselves masculine, we're just normal people.
Right.
We're just, and I think that would be mind-blowing for them to find out, right? So, like I said, since they probably are too afraid to go outside without their fucking hand sanitizer, we'll break it down for them here.
Okay, so there were seven reasons why
Yes.
millennials are reinventing.
Yes.
Okay, let's run through them.
All right, so the number one thing is they value self-awareness. And so my issue is, right, so we as masculine men never said that we don't feel, right? We just don't wear our feelings on our sleeves 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect example of this is my dad, right? I only remember him crying one time in my life.
Okay.
And that's when my uncle, which was his brother, died. I vividly remember that morning just because my dad was the type of guy who he might have been emotional with maybe confiding in my mom and stuff like that, but around us as kids, he was not the type of man that sat there and, when something sad happened, just sat there in his chair and freaking cried all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
this article kind of defines it as traditional masculinity says don't feel, right? And then modern masculinity says dare to feel. So I think it's one of those things, kind of like you mentioned earlier, where they just aren't aware of what we actually are.
No, they are 100% not. Because like I said, my dad, he felt, but he just didn't constantly express. And I knew he felt because I remember waking up that morning seeing how he felt.
Right.
Like he cried when he told us that our uncle had died. First off, I always knew it was trouble when my dad was not at work in the morning. I always knew something was up because my dad was out of the door long at work by the time we woke up for school. So if I woke up for school and my dad was home, something was not right.
Yeah.
So he 100% felt, but he was teaching us as boys turning into men that you don't always have to walk around showing that emotion. It's okay to not always have to look afraid, sad. Another perfect example of not showing constantly being afraid. She's going to shoot me for using this example when she listens to this.
Okay.
Right? So we were living in Hawaii at the time. If you ever live in Hawaii, they have these centipedes. Well, there was a centipede in the house, and it was crawling up the steps.
Okay.
My boys were at the top of the steps. My wife was at the bottom of the steps, and this thing's just slowly crawling up the carpet, up the steps. She loses her mind and freaks out.
Okay.
What do you think my kids did when they saw mom freaking out?
The
at
same
the
exact
bottom?
thing.
Exact same thing. And so I had to be like, stop freaking out. You're making them freak out. And as soon as she calmed down, they calmed down. And we calmly went and got a little pitcher and some little tongs and picked it up, threw it in there. You put a little dish soap in there, instantly kills it. But it's okay. That's a perfect example of why you don't always have to show your emotions on your sleeve all the time. It affects other people, especially people like children who you are trying to teach things to. Oh.
Yeah, so we have the second point here is they are nonconformists. So basically what it breaks down into in the article is that it goes into gender roles is its main point in this one. And I think that this is kind of misplaced in this article because I think both masculine men traditionally and new age millennials, I don't want to call them men in regards to this article, but all across the country and the world, gender roles are kind of ambiguous now. Anybody can play any role. It is perfectly acceptable nowadays for a man to play one role and a woman to play another role. It's not set in stone like it used to be.
Yeah. I don't know of any man that I know of that I've met that ever has been like, no, my wife cooks all the time.
Right.
I don't meet those people. I don't understand where she's meeting these people. I think it's just a huge myth that is just constantly perpetuated.
Yeah. Like I have a friend of mine who was talking about this the other day. He was in class at school and he got called a sexist by his class because he said that when he's at home, his wife cooks and cleans. and they called him a sexist over it because he doesn't help with those things. And I'm like, but did you explain to them that you fill other roles around the house? Like your wife still works, and then you do other things around the house too. It's not a gender role thing. It's a responsibility thing, and
exactly.
And people they pick up the slack of the other. That's the team there, you know.
Exactly. You literally took the words out of the notes that I had taken for this, because I was gonna say in my 12 years of marriage, right, having some predetermined things that you know the other person is always going to take care of is nice.
Oh yeah,
it's teamwork, right? We work as a team. It's a waste of time to every night have this coin toss of who's going to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, I don't always take out the garbage. Well, I don't always do the dishes. So you're going to coin toss that thing every single night to see who's going to do it? It's a huge waste of time. I get it. Most of the time she does the dishes. Who most of the time takes out the trash? I do. Who pretty much all the time, unless I am on travel, mows the yard.
Yeah.
Every time. And I don't question it. I don't find it to be a man role. It's what I do. It's not a gender role, but it's how you efficiently get things accomplished as a family.
Right.
As a team.
Yeah, I definitely think that is extremely misplaced here.
Yes.
As are a lot of other ones, but that one's extremely misplaced.
Yeah. So number 3 is they don't. I can't read this.
I know this is by far the second worst one in my opinion here.
Yeah. This one's absolutely terrible thought process, right? Number 3, they don't want to compete with one another. How do you expect to better yourself if you don't have someone else to look up to, or you don't have anybody to compete against, right? Competition breeds being a better person. This stems from, I think this number 3, it stems from generations of kids getting participation trophies and never having to deal with the emotion of losing.
And we've talked about this before. I think it was our first episode that we talked about this exact issue.
Yep.
And I think that it really solidifies what we've talked about in previous episodes. The fact that now this comes up in another article, and what we have said about it is just spot on the argument against what's in here. And this says that it looks like they're trying to gain an empty status when they compete. An empty status? To be the best at something? How is that an empty status, regardless of what it is that you're the best at? That is not an empty status at all. You are the best.
Even to not be the best at something, but be better than most at it. Not saying like you're going to be an Olympic athlete at something and compete worldwide against the best in the world, but be the top 2% because you busted your ass and you competed, not necessarily in competition, but you've literally competed against everybody else by being better than them. Even some days they're gonna tell me they don't compete against themselves. They don't try to better themselves from one day to the next.
Yeah.
That's competing against yourself.
Everybody's competing in some sense. If you're not competing in some sense, you're probably homeless.
And you're stagnant. You're absolutely stagnant and doing nothing in life. If you're not, because at a minimum, you should be competing, like I said, competing against yourself to be better the next day.
For sure. So the fourth one here is they value authenticity. Now, with this one, it goes into pretending somebody that they're not because they're not ashamed of who they really are. And I don't think that this is a trait of necessarily a millennial version of someone who's masculine. I think this applies to pretty much anybody who looks at themselves with any kind of self-esteem.
Yeah. Anybody who has a pulse and has any kind of self-respect for themselves values authenticity in themselves and in other people. I'm mind-boggled at how they draw these conclusions to some of these.
So does this mean, by this being in here, that us as more traditional masculine men, we don't value authenticity of ourselves?
That's how I perceive this. It's absolutely mind-blowing to think that all these things they think we aren't. But like I started the conversation with, I think it's because they've never left their echo chamber to dare talk to someone like us.
Right.
And actually connect with someone like us on an actual human level to figure out how we really work, how we really think, and how we really are in our day-to-day lives.
I think they'd actually be, it'd be a pleasure for them to be around someone that thinks and acts the way that we do. We'd be very real and down to earth with them. They might not like it at first, but given the time, I think that they would appreciate it.
I do. I think we are more authentic than they could ever be.
Right.
Because one of the best best traits that I look for in people that I work with or who I have working for me or who I hang out with is I want you to be brutally honest with me.
Right.
That's the only way I get better at something is if you are brutally honest if either I'm doing good or brutally honest if I'm not doing well at all.
Yeah.
It's the only way. How is that not 100% being more authentic than you could ever dream of?
Yeah, that's the definition of being an authentic person. And the people that you're honest with in that sense will respect you more. In the moment, they may not like you, but they will always come back to you, and you will be respected by them.
Yes. I want people to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not want to hang out with people who are going to at least shoot straight with you?
Exactly.
All the time.
Let's move into my favorite point on this
Are we
article.
on number 5 now?
This is number 5, yeah.
You want me to read it so you
Yeah.
don't you can just roll your eyes while I
Please,
read this?
Please.
They don't want to be vulnerable.
No, they do want to be vulnerable.
all the time.
Yeah. And I don't understand that whole thought process. And it ties into a lot of what's going on in the world. I don't think it's as much a millennial masculinity thing. A lot of people today want to be the victim, either consciously or subconsciously. You know, being the victim, it wins you an argument. It gets you things you wouldn't normally get. Being a victim is sought after by a lot of people these days, and it's absolutely disgusting because I pride myself on not being a victim of anybody.
Right? Like, read the quote that's in there, right? They said, the strongest man today is the most vulnerable. No. Flat fucking no. Like, even if you take vulnerability in the most, like, the most...
Like an emotional sense, maybe?
No, in the most realistic sense of being 100% vulnerable, like physically vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Think about walking down the street with your girlfriend, wife, fiance, whoever it is, right? What type of guy is going to get rolled by someone? In our line of work, right, we've always talked about being a hard target.
Yeah.
How do you become how do you not be a soft target?
With solid presence. You
exactly.
You display yourself as someone who's... Yeah.
But then that's taken as you're being masculine. Like, how do you protect your wife if you're walking down? Like, say you find yourself in a crappy neighborhood in the middle of the night and you got to get to your car. You got to figure, you've Google Mapped how to get to your car.
Yeah.
You just got to go through a couple of these dark-ass alleys. Who do you think's going to get rolled? The dude that has been working out, probably masculine, working out for the last 5 or 6 years, has some muscle, able to defend himself,
and carries himself as if he's able to.
Yeah, carries as fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Or the guy that's just kind of, I don't mind being vulnerable. It's okay. You're going to get your ass kicked, man.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get a straight kick.
And even if this is talking about an emotional vulnerability, and I do think that's kind of what it's pointing at.
That is more, I'm taking it another direction, but I think they are pointing in an emotional vulnerability.
But at the same time, an emotional vulnerability, to me, that just screams like, I'm going to be offended by everything. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, it is your choice to be offended, and I think this just proves the point even more. They are actively trying to be offended by everything so that they appear vulnerable, and that right there is the most pussy attitude I've ever heard.
Yeah, and they talk, and in there, how I know they're talking emotional is they say they don't have to fake anything. Again, I'm going to ask this a whole lot of times through these next few that we have. What masculine man is faking things? What masculine man did she talk to that is supposedly out there faking all kinds of things, faking not being vulnerable? I'm lost.
Yeah,
I'm lost. Show me the guy, because I have not met any guy out there that is just faking the funk the whole time. Fake it till you make it. Like,
right.
Most of the dudes that are walking around pretty masculine, there's reasons behind it.
Yeah,
they're still humble dudes. They're masculine. They have a certain set of things that they like to do. They like to compete. My mind is blown with with her.
Yeah, let's move on to number 6. They act according to their values is number 6, and I think this is another misplaced one because why is this a specific trait to a new age millennial masculine person?
It's not.
It's not. And in the terminology that it uses in the brief paragraph describing this point is so general that it could apply to any group of people. They follow through on their values.
Who's not?
Right.
What masculine dude isn't?
The values, he values his own sense of self above others' sense of who he is.
That seems narcissistic.
Maybe a little bit.
For them, if you were sitting there thinking that yourself is just better than anybody else, you lack humility and you're narcissistic.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Number 6 is probably the most terrible point to try to make a difference between the new millennial masculinity and traditional masculinity, a lack of values.
Yeah. And then number 7, which is also a very good one because it contradicts a lot of other ones on this list, and that is they are motivated to grow. And if we backtrack to point number 3 here, they don't want to compete with one another. I think those 2 points completely contradict each other because for you to grow, you have to compete. If you're going to compete, you're going to grow. Like you
can't have one without the other.
Exactly. So
it's like peanut butter with jelly.
Yeah, and then the paragraph here is disgusting. It says evolved men don't just stop at evolved. What? Are you kidding me? Like one of the points I live on is the fact that I'm not going to be satisfied with anything. I want to continue to grow and get better at things.
Yep.
And I'm not going to stop at just evolved. If I feel I've gotten good at something, I'm going to aspire to be great. If I'm great, I'm going to see what phenomenal looks like. I'm going to keep going. That's the nature of being a man.
Yeah, I took it very much in a very literal sense of growth, right?
Okay.
So if going to the gym is hyper masculine, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And what she sees is toxic masculinity, right? And going to the gym, right? That's quintessential definition of masculinity, right? How are we not motivated to grow then? We're going to the gym and we are literally growing our muscles. And doing so, we are putting ourselves through, right? Rigorous training, right?
Yeah.
We are putting ourselves in discomfort. And it not only hardens our bodies, but it hardens our minds.
And you're competing at the same time.
Yeah.
With yourself, the people around you.
Right. But that hardening of the mind, that's like, if you've ever heard David Goggins, right? He talks about how you build calluses in your mind. So you're impervious to the bullshit of the world, and so you can focus on growing and not letting the mental pain of death, divorce, and depression stop your growth.
Right.
When you hit those mental roadblocks, those hard parts in life, the gym and any kind of working out can make those mental calluses, and you're able to push through those things without it affecting you.
Yeah.
Oh, these people are just straight up living in fantasy land, man.
Yeah, and fantasy land, fantasy football.
Yeah.
It's like that shirt.
I see what you did there.
It's like that shirt that like has this word that transforms into bacon by the end of it. We go fantasy football. So it's the start of the season.
Yeah, it started a couple days ago.
On Thursday, yeah, it was the first game, and the Eagles won in the season opener, and we got a lot of good games coming up this weekend. Well, I don't know if I'd really say good games. We've got some decent games coming up this weekend. The one that sticks out to me is the Bears versus the Packers is the one this weekend to watch, if you ask me. It's the night game on Sunday, and the Bears and the Packers have been rivals for the longest time, since before I was even born. It's like since they were teams, they were bitter rivals.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good game to open the season. In terms of who's gonna take this game, it's tough, man, because people look at it, they see Green Bay, and what do you see as soon as you see Green Bay?
I don't even watch football that much, but I know the quarterback for Green Bay is Aaron Rodgers.
Right. And
that's coming from a dude that I don't think I've watched a football game since I was probably about 16.
Man.
It's been decades since I gave a shit about football.
So here's the way I'm going to pitch it when it comes to who can take this game.
All right.
The Packers they have Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is going to do Aaron Rodgers things, and he's gonna get yards, he's gonna make plays, he's gonna make touchdowns. It's gonna happen. With that said, the Packers passing game is ranked 25th in the league. That's pretty far down there.
How many teams are in the league?
There's 32 teams in the league.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's not that good.
Terrible.
Well, to put it in perspective, the Bears have the 32nd ranked passing game, which is last in the league. So,
yeah,
but,
can we get Keanu Reeves in to play quarterback for one of them?
Yeah. Their rushing game is kind of even on both sides, right? But the big star here where I think that the Bears have a chance to make something happen is in their defense. The Bears defense has always been, it's like the New York Yankees of defenses, right? It's like they might not always be the best, but it's always the Bears defense, like
the Bears.
Yeah, exactly. And they're ranked 10th in the league right now in terms of defenses. That's pretty good.
Not bad.
And with Aaron Rodgers having lost a few targets and, them not really having the strongest offense right now on the side of Green Bay, the Bears defense could be what turns the tide here. So I'm gonna pick the underdog because everybody's still gonna say Green Bay, and I'm gonna say the Bears are gonna take it.
Yeah, that's crazy because again, I'm a guy that doesn't even watch football that much, but I know the two 5-star rated quarterbacks for the new Madden that came out. I think they only rated 2 quarterbacks in the game is for 5 stars.
I haven't played the new Madden, but it's probably Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's the only 2 people. So they basically have the number 1 or number 2 quarterback on a team, but still be ranked 25th in the league in passing.
Well, it just comes down to his target. It comes down to his target.
Yeah, it speaks volume to the rest of the offense that he has to work with.
But I still think the stats a little bit skewed because there were great quarterbacks in history. Dan Marino, Peyton Manning at one point didn't have the best targets in the world. Tom Brady, he hasn't had the best targets in the world, and look at what they've done. So I think that in terms of looking at it on paper and the ranking of,
I don't think that supports your prediction, what you just said, though.
Well, I want Green Bay I want Aaron Rodgers to do well. He's on my fantasy team. But I think that the Bears defense can turn the tide here. The issue with the Bears is going to be them scoring points at all. Is going to be the issue. They can most definitely stop Green Bay from scoring, but can they score themselves?
You got to score to win.
This game might go on for eternity. Who knows? There's going to be more points put up by kickers this game than anybody else.
True statement.
But it's I still think it's going to be a really good game, or it's just going to be a complete blowout. Either way, either Aaron Rodgers is going to defy, the fact that he has no targets, and he's gonna kick ass, which he probably will because he's Aaron fucking Rodgers, or the Bears defense is just gonna stomp him into the ground and not be able to score themselves.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. No one on my fantasy team played on Thursday, so I don't have any points on the board. But the big one to note here in terms of fantasy points was Matt Ryan. Complete disappointment, only putting up 8 points as a quarterback. That's not good. Your quarterback's supposed to carry your team.
Yeah. I only played fantasy once, and I just remember that the most points that was ever scored was my quarterback.
Right.
I forget I had a pretty decent quarterback, but
yeah. So we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna pick the Bears over the Packers in that game. And then who do we have for Monday night?
I think there should be a punishment if you get these wrong.
I'll drink an extra beer next episode.
All right, yeah, you're gonna have to pound one through the first segment, and then you're gonna have to drink. You have to crack open a second one by the time we make it into the second segment.
All right, and then Monday night we have a doubleheader with the Jets and the Lions, and the Rams versus the Raiders. So I think that I think the Lions are just gonna destroy the Jets, to be honest, and then if the Jets can shut down the Lions' passing game, we'll see what happens there. But I don't know. I just think the Lions take it. And then I think the Rams versus the Raiders will probably be a pretty good game. That'll probably be close to taking the game of the week there. But that's all I got on the football.
So you got 2 predictions, and you know what? We're tracking these. We're going to track these predictions.
Okay.
We're going to see how good your predictions really are throughout the NFL season.
Oh
on this
boy.
Thing.
All right.
So you made 2. You had the Bears.
The Bears over the Packers, and then I have the Lions over the Jets. But I think that's unfair to make that prediction.
No, you're stuck.
Okay.
You're fucking stuck.
Okay, got it.
Don't cry to me when you make some shitty ass picks.
Okay.
All right. Well, speaking of shitty, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was episode 2. We talked about the shitty experiment.
Yeah.
So give them a quick recap, like 30 seconds. Try to,
I've been
experiment.
conducting a social experiment. When I go into a public restroom, if someone's taking a shit and I got to take a shit, I intentionally sit in the stall directly next to them and then document how long it takes for them to be done with their shit.
Yeah, and the one factor is there has to be an alternative place for you to sit that isn't right next to them.
Right, you're effectively breaking man law.
Yeah, by sitting in the stall
right
next to them. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you conducted it lately?
Yes.
Results.
And so the reason I conducted it is funny. I woke up to take my morning shit, and as soon as I sat down, I realized I was out of toilet paper, so I held it in until I got to work, and then I immediately just go into the bathroom, and there was fortunately somebody in there, and I sat down next to them, and they actually stayed longer than usual, but I think it was because they were trying to wait me out. They were done. They were done, but they were trying to wait me out, because there's also that awkward moment if you both finish at the same time and stand up and then you both exit.
Damn well he's been in there forever, and you've only been there for a couple of minutes.
But I definitely beat him out on that. He was in there for maybe a little less than a minute since I sat down, so it's still a pretty good stat.
All right, so I have some questions because I've been conducting shitty experiment as well.
Okay.
And I have some questions for you. So the first time I conducted it, here's what happened.
Nice one.
I had to let that one go. All right, so I want to know what your thought process is on if it counts or not.
Okay.
All right, so I go in and I sit down, and about 10 seconds later, the guy in the stall to the right of me starts doing the paperwork. Right?
Oh, that he's...
Whoa. Slow down.
Okay.
Right? He does the paperwork, but he doesn't fucking leave. He just stays there.
Now that's weird.
I think it's a show. I think it's him being like, oh shit, there's someone next to me. I'm going to do the paperwork like I'm about to get out of here, and hopefully he'll finish and leave so I can still stay in here and just, fart around my phone.
So does it work? Yeah. And
I was at the gym.
Oh.
Yeah, so I sit there and he starts doing paperwork, does the paperwork, sits there, and I'm still in there for a couple more minutes, and all of a sudden he's got to do a little more paperwork.
That's weird.
It's really weird.
I've never done a pre-poop wipe.
I don't think he was I'm telling you, I don't think he was pre-pooping, doing a pre-poop wipe. I think he was in there, realized he's probably been in there a while. A dude just sat down right next to him when there was 5 other open stalls.
Did he flush?
No, he did not flush.
That's just odd. I think we can count that as an anomaly.
Yeah, it was so weird.
Yeah.
I was like, well, do I count this? Because, like I said, within less than 30 seconds, he started doing paperwork. I'm like, poof, got him. Shitty experiment. Chalk one up for winning.
Yeah.
Right? So the other one that I have a few questions on, and then a funny story, a story to tell for it, right? So the last one, definitely win the shitty experiment. Because I don't even get the door fully closed and locked, and I hear the lock screen on his phone go.
Nice.
Like, oh, I got you.
Yep.
And within, like, I would say 40 seconds, flush and gone.
Yeah.
Now, there was someone next to him, and about 20 seconds after that, he's flushed and gone. So do I get the chalk 2 up to my shitty experiment because I forced 1 out, and then maybe he left because that guy was in there a while too?
With my expert analysis, what I think happened here was 2 dudes were playing Candy Crush on their phone. Right? And you sitting down made one uncomfortable, and then as he stood up, the other realized how numb his legs were and how long he had been playing Candy Crush on his phone, and he got up and left. I don't think your presence technically set off the...
It was a chain reaction.
Yeah, the chain reaction.
That's what I'm saying. Do I get 2 for the chain reaction?
I would say if the second guy was sitting next to you on the other side, yes, which I've never had a double whammy. But yeah.
I'm looking for one now.
Yeah, but I don't think you can get those points on the other guy.
You know what the saddest part of that whole story was, though? So it happens, and I fall into the trap.
Oh, no.
I'm scrolling through Facebook really quick while I'm doing stuff, and I'm just sitting there, and someone comes in. I don't think they're a listener, but I swear to God, they sit down next to me, and I'm like, oh, shit, I've been on my phone just sitting here. Let me get up and get out of here. And then as soon as I get up, I was like,
you were a statistic.
yeah, he got the shitty experiment on me.
Aren't you glad you've met me and I introduced you to this?
I know. I felt so stupid when I got up, though. I was like, man, all these two other dudes, I'm like, man, got them.
Yeah.
Double whammy, I thought. And then all of a sudden, turned into a victim.
Yeah.
Shitty experiment victim.
All right, man. Hey, you also said that you had some more shitty pickup lines for me.
I can't forget about your little lady in the elevator.
I saw her once, but she's definitely been avoiding me. And when I saw her...
Maybe it's just hard to get.
Maybe. No. When I saw her, I went up and I apologized first. I was like, hey, I'm really sorry about the other day. And then I said, but if you were a because you gave me the, if you were a Transformer, you'd be Optimus Fine. And I was about to drop it after the apology.
Yes.
And as soon as I got, if you were a she was like, don't.
Oh.
So it was shut down. But if you have more for me, I'll keep trying to throw them at her.
Oh yeah, just don't even stop. Just when she sees you, just keep going
until I have a restraining order. That'll
You're
be
not gonna
great.
be able to live in your apartment anymore.
I'm gonna frame it.
Like the other thing you have framed.
Yeah.
Oh man, right? So you should have interrupted her and said, "Hey, do you want to feel my shirt? It's made of boyfriend material."
Oh no.
Or you could have said, you know, if you were a phaser on Star Trek, you'd be set to stun.
Oh, those are both so bad. But I had another adventure in the elevator escapades, as I call them now. The elevator just is not agreeing with me. This actually happened on my way here today. I was going down the elevator to drive here.
Yeah.
And I'm one floor away from when the elevator opens for me to get out into my parking garage, and I let loose the nastiest fart. And I'm sitting in there for like the 10 seconds that I'm in there. I'm like, oh God, this is bad. And as soon as the door opens, this family is just standing there waiting to get in the elevator. And I darted out of there so fast because, man, they just walked into a stink house.
A shit storm.
It was so bad.
All right. Hey, don't forget to check us out on Facebook at The Man Cave Podcast, over on Twitter at The Man Cave 14, on Instagram at The Man Cave Podcast, and we also publish these on YouTube. Just go in the search it bar and type in The Man Cave Podcast. But hey, for the full, no safe space, no bullshit experience, check us out and subscribe to us over on Patreon. For only $1, you're going to be entered in to win a UKEG 64-ounce stainless steel growler and all sorts of prizes that we give away. Again, you heard that right. For just $1, you could win a $140 fully pressurized growler. But for $5 a month, you not only get entered in to win the prizes, you'll get exclusive access to special podcast episodes, exclusive access to tell us what you want us to talk about, and give us feedback on topics from every podcast. So, hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay with us. We'll see you next time here in the Man Cave.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Any real man would follow us on Patreon for exclusive content and prizes at patreon.com/The Man Cave Podcast. The Man Cave. No safe spaces, no bullshit.